Hello, Salon Sleuth fans. We started this podcast right before the COVID stay at home order, so we've had to move our recordings remotely and separately. We apologize for the sound quality, but we're doing our part to keep everybody safe. We hope you enjoy today's topics and continue to listen. So, hi, Leslie. How are you today?
Hi, Melissa. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, good. So, I don't know if you noticed on my social meds, but last night my husband and I had our 25th wedding anniversary.
It's so
And
cute.
did you
Your
see
dress.
that?
I can't believe that. That's amazing.
I know. So I love him because he just goes along with me and does these crazy things. But when my daughter and I were talking about this a month ago, I'm like, okay, well, if we're still in lockdown, what are we gonna do? And I said, I've got my wedding dress. So pulled that sucker out of the attic, and it was like the bin that it was in was totally disgusting. There's like dead bees all over it. Well, this is the part you did not see, which is so flipping funny. So you can social shame us, but I don't want to hear it, people. But I have allowed my daughter to have one friend through this whole thing to our
I saw
house.
that. I knew that she was not related to you.
Yeah. So she has the two families agreed, and so they're both allowed to see each other, but they have really, other than that, they don't go anywhere. I mean, my daughter hasn't even been in the grocery store. So anyways, she was there. Well, the girls, I knew they were excited because it was like 4 o'clock and she'd already come over and they were getting ready and they were, getting their prom dresses on and everything. So I'm like, okay, I really got to do this. So I went up into the attic, got this dress down, go into my room, and I'm getting dressed and, doing the makeup and the hair and everything. And I go, okay, girls, you need to zip me up because I couldn't quite get it. Well, the zipper was stuck. It hasn't been used in 25 years. So I
Yeah.
had to take the dress down and take it off. I mean, and like, get it all warmed up and get it going. And so we got that. So I put it back on. We zip it up. And they're having a little trouble because the girls, the biscuits in the front, they're a little bigger. And the
You've had
rest
a couple
was fine.
kids and, time.
Yeah, babies.
Yeah.
So the girls get it zipped up and I go to take this deep breath. I go, and the back just goes pop. And
Uh,
my daughter's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." And I'm like, "What? What?" Well, I go, "Well, just pull the zipper down and I'll fix the zipper." And she's like, "No, mom. The zipper is still zipped up. The stitching has come apart."
oh.
I'm like, "You're kidding." I go, "Okay, go down and get my sewing machine." And she's like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, we're going to sew this bad boy back up." So she goes down. I have the sewing machine out on the counter and I just zipped her back up. Thankfully, I had white already in the machine. Zipped her back up and they put it back on me, zipped her up. And I'm like, look, this was 25-year-old stitching. And she'd kind of hand done it, it was all nicely kind of hidden and everything. So, of course, it's no longer hidden. It's like, regular sewing machine. But they were near tears when that sucker burst open.
Yeah.
And they were so
That's
impressed that I put it back on. And,
well,
they were like,
I mean,
"Just don't
luckily we all
reheat."
have that time to do those things right now,
I
right?
know, right? It was kind of
That was such
fun.
a cool thing that you did that though. Like
Yeah.
25 years later. I love what was it? 9,500 and
Yeah, 9,125,
days
I think,
later.
days. Yeah. Isn't
I
that
thought that was
funny?
cool. I love
Yeah,
that stuff.
and we had our first eating out, so we brought in food from, some local places, and that was our first eating in, like, outside of our house kind of a thing,
Yeah,
food. So
that's really cool.
and then we took a
That's
little
a really awesome memory.
Yeah, and then we took a little tour around the cul-de-sac and said hi to our neighbors, and they just thought we were insane crazy, but they were all like, "Oh my god, you still fit in your dress." And Eric's like, "Yeah, I still fit in my bow tie too."
And that train, that's a long train.
It was very fun.
That was really cool. And
Yeah.
you just thought of it yesterday? You
No,
didn't
no, we
plan it?
thought about it. We've been talking about it for a while,
Okay.
but,
Because I was like, that stuff takes some, like, planning, and I was like, I was gonna be impressed if you just threw it together in that
no.
day.
No, no. I mean, we threw the plan together, but we knew we were going to do it, and we kind of talked about it. And Maya was really excited. And I started out this whole COVID thing trying to be like Julie McCoy from The Love Boat. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to have theme nights, and we're going to do all this stuff. And that worked for like the first 2 weeks or so, and then after that, I just kind of lost my power.
Yeah,
I was like, "I'm over this. This is" so anyways, I had to bring it back a little bit last night and,
that was
man
really
up.
cool.
Yeah. So how much do you know about past lives?
Well, I believe in them. I don't know how they work. I know what I believe, but I don't know if that's to be true.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a specific question or do you wanna just tell me about it?
No, I'm gonna talk to you today about past lives because in the last couple of
Okay.
weeks, I've been researching, and I have always believed in past lives and some sort of reincarnation, and I've actually, been intrigued by the fact that it seems to be only kids who will talk about their past lives, and I've often wondered, like, these prodigies, child prodigies and everything, and where they, they go on Oprah and they can recite all 52 states, and all the presidents and all that stuff. And I've often wondered, like, okay, is that the sort of thing that you just didn't get cleared out all the way before you
I
came
think
back?
so.
Like,
Sometimes.
yeah, like
How do you
that's kind
know
of
a what is a certain foreign language? Why does
yes,
it come super easy to some people? I was just reading today when you were telling me about this subject, I did look on and this lady said this girl said she wanted to learn Russian and that she picked it up super easy. Even her own teacher was like, "This is really weird because she's using the dialect of a certain place that
right.
they don't teach, but she just knew it." And she goes, and in the and it's all online, so I don't know if it's true, but she's like, "And I still have it today. Like it's super easy for me." So I think
Wow.
maybe we didn't get completely wiped out. You know,
Yeah, that is interesting. And you and I talked about this a little bit off the air, but so we were talking about, did you think you had a past life? And what would tell everybody what your answer was?
I feel well. Okay, it's either two things. I loved Little House on the Prairie. And I feel like I probably lived in that time frame where I almost can imagine that my husband went off to war and I was having to take care of the whole house myself. And I do get this weird, really enjoy chopping wood. And so I would go out on the side of the wood side of the house to cut the wood in order to have our own fire. But when I'm out there, it's like I almost remember doing it. Just seems like so normal to do that. And obviously, I don't live on a farm or anything like that.
No,
But
you're in the
I
burbs.
can actually imagine like living in that lifetime. And we know a little girl, and you probably might know who I'm talking about, but um, she was really drawn to a certain place. And I would have no doubt that she was from like the Egyptian time at one point. Because she always liked those kind of books and she liked that kind of art and she liked all that kind of stuff. And for to be drawn to that specific type when you're really young was kind of interesting, I thought. And I thought, oh, for sure, she's lived in that place at one time.
Well, and so I actually like the story, which you did not include, that sometimes you will race your husband out to chop the wood because you want to beat him there,
Well,
which
he wants me to be safe, so he wants to go do it, and then I would sneak out, like, the back door just to get to the side, but you can kinda hear the gate open, and then they'd come running out to try to get it from me, but, yeah, that's true. We would, he doesn't do that anymore, he sends the boys to do it, but I actually like to go out there and do it.
well,
I have
and
to make the kindling and chop it, and I mean, I'm not chopping down a tree, I'm just chopping it
yeah.
into workable pieces, but I do really enjoy doing that.
That's so interesting to me because, when I was doing this research, I was just my head was spinning. Firstly, it seems to be all kids that remember these things and will make comments on these things. And it doesn't seem to be adults, but the parents really seem to, like, isolate these kids and not want other people to know or talk about it because they don't want people to, um, judge their kids or think they're crazy or weird. And then it
Well, just
seems
like in the angel story that we have
yeah,
a couple episodes ago, even she has told her friends about this, and they kinda think she's weird.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
think to protect their children, they're telling them, "Hey, this is maybe something we don't talk about."
Well, and like her, she's 10 now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's losing it now.
I was gonna say, they say
Yeah,
around 6, they stop talking about it, and they actually start forgetting.
and you know who told me this? Suzanne Jacques told me it's once they start getting their adult teeth is when they start losing it. because it's like they're getting grounded to this
Oh,
earth. Like they're
interesting.
becoming more of a, and your ego starts to take over what's real, what's not real.
Mhm.
Your mind starts to make kind of try to figure it all out. And the more that we do that, the less open we are to some of these things that are probably don't have answers.
Interesting. Well, here's the 9 signs for all you moms out there with little kids. Here's the 9 signs from Huffington Post by David Moy. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Moye. He wrote an article which made me laugh because, there's 9 signs. There's not 8, there's not 10, there's 9. Um,
Right.
adult-like behavior or acts beyond their years that show adult-like skills. Number 2,
Okay.
specific past life memories. And there's stories on some of these that I'll come back and we'll talk about a little bit. Traumatic memories that they may remember. Number 4, an uncanny knowledge of another language, and you kind of pointed to that one. Number 5 is night terrors, which I know that's super prevalent. My son had a lot of that kind of stuff. I never knew what it was about. He never talked about it, but that's certainly prevalent in kids.
Yeah, we don't
Number
really know
6,
what those are. We
I
just know
know.
them as night terrors. We don't really know what's happening.
No,
And
no.
if you've had a pretty easy life, what on earth could you be so freaked out about? If you say when you go to dream at night, you're just kind of working out your day, what the heck are you having night terrors about then?
I don't know, but I will tell you that my son used to dream, speak and yell out, and his thing was always like, "Ball, ball, 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 ball. Kai, Kai, Ben, Ben," his
Right,
friends.
exactly, just things that they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to be so scared about something that you're unaware of would be, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
night terrors are something totally different.
Yeah. And I think night terrors are a much bigger deal than just a nightmare or whatever or
Yeah.
talking. The other thing was advanced skills, memories of the period between lives. So some of these kids actually had recollections or were able to say, like, one of them, where did I have that? Said that if you die in a traumatic death, you get to come back right away.
Oh,
Which,
Renee said that, I think.
oh, did she?
Yeah, well,
Didn't
probably
know
not in
that.
this last one, but she says sometimes you just have like your life is kind of planned out, and there might be these exit points where we can allow ourselves in and out if we wanted to,
Mm.
but that if you and sometimes she calls it like oops, that wasn't supposed to happen, but you died.
Oh.
Then maybe you can come back because you didn't fulfill whatever plan you had.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I want to
And
hear more.
and then number 9 is talk about their earlier mother.
Yeah.
So which is totally intriguing, and, when I was
I would
re
say that's a pretty good indicator that
yeah,
there was another life.
yeah, and there's some creepy stories, and I'll tell you one of them. But, the thing that I realized in doing this is there's not a lot of stories. In fact, if any of you listeners have somebody that would be willing to come on, or a child that that would be willing to be interviewed, or that parent, we'd love to hear from them because we've tried to reach out and find somebody who has firsthand knowledge. And a lot of the stories that we see are all the same ones, like repeated, which
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't know. I
We
want to
would like to
hear a
I
little.
want, like, firsthand
Me,
somebody out there who actually has gone through this. It would
yes,
be, I think, good for everybody to hear, and not the same old stuff. I wanna hear
right,
something new. I want something more,
right.
um yeah.
Right, and it doesn't have to be dramatic and, like, crazy, but I want it to be more firsthand knowledge than just reading it on the internet. So, here's one via paranormalist, sorry, .com. A 3-year-old little boy named Cade Kernett started talking and having nightmares about falling at the Statue of Liberty and about his leg being broken off. And he would tell her that it started with lightning, two buildings, and a man falling off. He would always assure her that they don't die, meaning they, the parents, and that he picked her and that he was older than her. So she thinks that he was in 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she would say, "Oh, but don't worry, you guys don't die." and I'm older than you, and things like that. And she's like, there's just
Yeah.
no way he would known all that stuff at 3,
Yeah.
like the Statue of Liberty, and like he just wouldn't have known that stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. So Carson Culpepper told his mother that she remembered being in the 1995 Oklahoma bombing.
Ew.
I know. I know. And this was the same little girl, I think. Yeah. This was the same little girl that says, if you die a violent death, you can come back remembering your past life.
Okay.
Isn't that
So
weird?
is that the only way?
I don't know. It seems like a lot of rebirth, coming back, reincarnation, I guess it would be called. You do wait a time period, but I don't know how all that works. I mean, obviously, I'm just reading what other people write and, have researched and stuff, and I don't even really know where they get all their research. But it seems to that these stories go way, way back. Like, there's one man that recalls being in the 800s. So
Oh,
there are
yeah.
stories, of these stories of happening a long, long, long time ago. There's a little boy that was in the Reader's Digest, that he started talking in full sentences at 18 months, and he used words like portal when he told his dad that he was actually his grandfather. Isn't that
Like
interesting? There's
something about
also
when
a
he was
story, and I
changing
don't
his
remember.
diaper. Like, I used to change your diaper.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's what he
Yeah.
said. Yes, that was the story. And there's also one, which I don't remember where I saw this, I apologize, but about an Alaskan, grandfather who told his son that he would come back as his son. So, "I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be your son." And when he did have the son years later after his father had died, the, son, his new little boy, had a birthmark in the same location that the grandfather had a birthmark,
So weird.
right?
Yeah.
So here's another one from realreincarnationstories.com, that the grandson, this was actually a long story, and there was a lot of valid things I thought, or a lot of, things that I thought validated what the grandmother was saying in this one. But the grandson says that he used to be the grandmother's deceased son. So she had a boy and he died, and she was told she'd no longer have kids. Well, she ended up adopting a girl, and then she got pregnant 3 years later with her second son. And when that son had a little boy, he used to come over and he would say that he's actually her deceased son. And he would point to a picture that, because she had a portrait made of her original son. And he
Yeah.
would point to it and he would say, "That was me when I was bigger."
Ugh.
Uh-huh. And he would go, and he would call her mommy, and she'd go, "No, no, 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 your mommy is so and so," which is his real birth mom. And "No, no, you were my first mom." And asked to
Oh,
come live with them. Yeah, just weird stuff that you're like, "Okay, how could that little guy make that up? Because he was
yeah.
so little." Okay,
Have you
so
ever heard of the story of, Luke Ruhlman? I could be saying his last name wrong. It's Ruehlman.
I don't know it, but tell me it.
He was only 3 years old, and he would play with, like, stuffed animals or whatever, and he always named everything Pam. And his mom's like, "What the heck? We don't know anybody named Pam. Why is everything named Pam?" Then he would tell them, like he would cuddle up with his mom and he would play with her earrings and he would say, "My other mom used to have a pair just like those." And she's just like, "What the heck?" And he had told her enough information, basically that they lived, like, he was from Chicago. No, he did not live in Chicago. His past life was from Chicago. His family has
Mhm.
never been there. But he had told he sorry, Luke had told his mother enough information that they were able to find this lady, Pam, who had died in a fire at an apartment complex. So what she had done, and her husband really didn't believe in any of this, they had taken a bunch of pictures and put them together and then gave it to him and be like, "Hey, are any of these, do you recognize anybody?" and he pointed to his mom, which is not his mom, his past life mom. In the middle was Pam. She's an African American woman. He's now this little white boy, but he was
Right.
like, "That's Pam. That's my mom." And the dad's like, "What the heck is happening?" And they've, I think there's a Lifetime movie about it. Let's see, what is it called? I just saw that, The Ghost Inside My Child
Mm,
is kind of based on that. And they're from Virginia Beach. He had never been to Chicago. Like, how on earth would he had, like, even known?
right.
Anyway, I got this from Huffington Post, or Huff Post.
Yes, HuffPost,
Huff
which is
Post. Okay.
Huffington Post. I think they just
Okay.
shorten it for the web, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
So
did
that
read about that one. There's one about a guy or a kid who says that he was a Hollywood movie maker and
Yes.
producer, and he
Yeah.
wants to go back to his old house because it's nicer with a pool,
Yeah.
and he kept asking, he's like, "I wanna go back to my other life."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you see the
crazy.
one about Anne Frank?
Yes, that she
She
thinks
couldn't
she's
even look like her. That was kind
yeah,
of interesting.
yeah. Well, I don't
Yeah,
think they
so
get to choose, like, they're not gonna get to choose what they look like, right? But
I
is
don't know,
that
they say we can pick our parents, right?
yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we really don't know what the truth is, but,
No. No.
this lady said, and this was kind of interesting, um, like, if a soul has come, they want to learn something, right?
Uh-huh.
And so we've chosen our parents because those are gonna be the people that are going to teach us these lessons, or at least they're gonna give us the tools that will maybe give us what we need to learn those lessons, right?
Right.
And so she did this thing about identical twins and how some of them, maybe they share one soul,
Ooh,
but
really?
they couldn't decide, and so they split so that they both can learn, but they're sharing the same higher self.
What? And
So
share
they
one
can,
soul?
like, so, like, to share the higher self of that one person, because, like, say you wanted to learn how to learn integrity and, you know, whatever, and this, and but another strong part of you wanted to learn this, and you couldn't do that in one person, and you had to split
Whoa.
in order to I'm like, I don't know, is that possible?
I
Like,
don't
is
know
that
about that one. I'm a little sus on that one.
I just thought it was pretty interesting
Okay,
to even
speaking of
think.
twins, though, I have another story for you.
Yeah,
John
about the
okay, this
girls,
is
the
from
daughters.
website Historic Mysteries. John and Florence Pollock lived in Hexham, England. They had 2 daughters named Joanna and Jacqueline. Joanna was 11, Jacqueline was 6. So kind of remember those names because it comes into play here. On May 5th, 1957, the 2 girls were killed in a car accident. Obviously, the parents were devastated, and Florence got pregnant again the following year, and she gave birth to identical twins. Well, right after she had these babies, they moved, and the twins were named Jillian and Jennifer. Okay, so the original 2 were Joanna and Jacqueline, and then Jillian and Jennifer. And Jennifer had a birthmark that matched the one that Jacqueline had, as well as a birthmark on her forehead that resembled a scar that Jacqueline had. And after they had moved and the girls had started getting older, like 3, they started asking for the toys that the older sisters had. But these 2 girls had never had these toys and never even seen these toys, but they started asking for them. And the family decided to return to their previous home where the older girls had lived. It didn't say whether they moved there or they just went for a visit, but the twins started pointing out landmarks that the older sisters had known. And they started panicking when they saw moving cars and saying, "The cars are coming for us. The cars are coming to get us." And then they
Oh,
turned 5 and all memories of this faded away.
so the parents think
They
that
think that yeah,
they're the same ones.
yeah. And that kind of falls in line with what you were saying about, like, this tragic death, and they got to come back faster,
Yeah,
right? And they got to pick that they were coming back to the same parents and
because they weren't done yet.
yeah, yeah.
Weird.
But I don't know how I don't know, it's so very odd. So very odd, but, I did wanna tell you that I've reached out to a couple, therapists and hypnotists that do
Hypnotherapist?
past life regression, and
Yeah.
I think you or I need to get one done.
So I think you found a lady and I found a lady.
Yes.
We either do it together or we can do our own separate ladies.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
I think we do our own separate.
Okay.
'Cause I did see a video where somebody the girls did it together.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that it was a YouTube video, and, they both went, and they got to see each other's like, they both were hypnotized, and they started seeing the other person's life,
I
past
don't know.
life,
Do you want to do that?
which sounds
Because I
so
have a
cool.
bad memory. I might need you to remember for me.
Well, I think we'll record it no matter what, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think that sounds cool. I couldn't I gotta go back and see if I can't find that one and who that one was
Yeah. I
and
have the link. I can send it back to you, or you
okay.
have it from sending it to me.
Oh,
But
that's right, okay. Okay, good.
that would be kind of cool.
Wouldn't that be
That would be
cool?
weird. How is that? They're basically sharing the same dream,
I
but
know,
not?
right? Right?
Ugh.
Well, and you and I think off air were talking about how do you know when something is a dream and when it's actually something that you know. So for example, this Sky Cohen or Skylar Cohen that I actually did watch one of her YouTube videos. She went and got a past life reading. And afterwards she goes, I don't really know if I was just making this stuff up. Um, but it was just coming to me. And so I was just saying what I was thinking. She goes, I don't know if I was making it up or if it was real or whatever. And I think that's the issue is that we all question these things when they happen to us. And what I keep hearing from Suzanne and Renee and Joshua John, who we're going to have on in a couple weeks, is that when you aren't triggered to think about something and it just pops into your head, that's probably a real intuition, right?
Right.
Is that how you would describe it, Leslie? Because you've
Well, and
had
I
some of
think we
those.
we put too much thought into something and trying to figure it out what it is when maybe it is just that. Like maybe I think like say you have a vision of some sort, but your physical person of who you are, you're trying to figure out everything, but you're
Yeah.
losing the whole point of what it was. It's not necessarily something to figure out. It's maybe something more spiritual.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know this about you, Leslie, but you do have some abilities.
Well,
And
okay, I just have to say this, and it's not really something that just happened, but I thought it was kind of cool just because Governor Brown just made an announcement that she's going to be opening up some counties for salons,
okay.
and which would be May 15th, which just happens to be the same date. I put it on my calendar online as
No.
opening. So
No.
I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I did put that date as the date that would be the end of all of this. Um, at least the closure. I don't know if my county where the salon is actually going to be open on that date, but I thought that's kind of cool. I predicted that date.
Wow.
I'm
Well,
sure like okay, now I'm second guessing myself. Like I'm like, oh, it's just a fluke, but
so I
sometimes you just know things, right? Do you ever do that, Melissa? Like you just know that you
oh,
know the answer.
this is the weird part is my husband is just flabbergasted by the fact that sometimes I just do know things.
Yeah.
And and like you said, you're like, I don't know if I'm just making this up. But we've had a couple instances here, but I want to toot your horn a little bit before I talk about mine. That you have studied this and you've done some hypnotizing and you've never been hypnotized though, you said.
Um, okay, like I told you I actually just was having visions of the girl who was doing it for me. And then I came out of it, told her what I saw. She freaked out. And I'm like, see ya. Because I saw her house, I saw her son, I saw what was in his room and what was happening. So when I came out of being hypnotized, which is, I don't even remember, it was probably more of like, how to be happy or, whatever she was hypnotizing me. But the whole time I was basically almost in a daydream about her, and then when I came out, I was like, "This is what I saw," which had nothing to do with what she was saying.
And she's like, well, you weren't really
But I
being
think she put
hypnotized.
me in that state
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I was able to read her without even knowing I was doing it.
Well, and that was the interesting thing is I think that I've talked to you a little bit about the different states that I'm reading this new book and alpha is kind of the state of meditation, but then below that is theta, which is the hypnotism. And I have been hypnotized. And I would tell you, I woke up from that going, oh, I know everything he said to me. I remember what he said to me, but I don't it's kinda like a dream where you say, "Yeah, I don't remember parts of it. I know I was awake for all of it, but I don't remember parts of it." And then as you get further and further away from the time, you remember less and less of what they actually said. So, and
So, like,
my
hypnosis would say then, is it actually sinking into the subconscious level if you don't even remember it?
well, I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah,
Is
it
that it
is,
does
but
sink
then
in.
part of it yeah,
And I had an hour and a half session, and I would have told you it was 20 minutes,
yeah, yeah,
which is so weird. So weird. But
yeah.
I do have to toot your horn because I know you have some of these powers and these things that we talk about, and it just seems so foreign to most people, but I think it really is about listening to yourself. And when you have done these for me in the past, which you've been totally right about, both my children, by the way, going to which colleges, and it was not even on their radar when you did it that they would go to these places. But you were right.
And it was so long ago.
It was
Yeah,
years ago,
and
and
Maya just graduated, so
yeah. Yeah, Maya just graduated and went to
yeah.
her first year in college, and this was probably 3 years ago. So Jacob was starting to talk about what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go and everything, but, he ended up going to University of Portland, but that was so not on our radar, and you said, "No, he's gonna stick close to home, like Portland."
Which is so funny because I don't remember what I told you other
Yeah.
than if I don't even think I have it in my phone anymore, but I think that's also like the hypnosis thing, you don't really remember. Like Renee, she doesn't remember or even Suzanne,
Yeah, they don't remember.
remember everything that they say.
No, and
Yeah,
you
I don't
said to
know.
me, this is the part that you said to me, you go, "Well, I could be making it all up, I don't know."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, well, we'll just see."
because it's kind of like a daydream. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you know, I can like think about one person and then kind of what I see about that person and then I daydream about I move it off shift it off to somebody else or and but there was one time when I tried to do you and nothing. It was like this blank wall, and that was when your dad was really sick.
Oh,
Do you remember
interesting.
that? And you're like, "I wasn't open to anything at that moment."
Interesting.
Does that ring a bell at all?
I don't
Because I
remember that.
even asked okay, because I asked, this is such a weird story, but, another person we should probably talk to is Autumn, and I had asked her, like, "Is can I just, like, think about anybody, everybody?" And she's like, "The thing is, if it's not allowed, you won't get anything. Like, if they're not
Oh.
open, you won't be able to get anything from them." So I thought that was kind of interesting because I kept like every time I would think about you, my brain would just go somewhere else. It just like when you're trying to meditate and your brain's going all over the
Yes.
place. Every time I try to concentrate on you, it just was like not doing it. And then I
Okay.
think it was like a little bit later because how long ago did your dad pass?
4 years ago, I think now?
So I think that's around the same time I was doing that for you
Yes.
because it wasn't working when your dad was sick. And I think maybe you were preoccupied, you're thinking about him and it wasn't allowed then.
Yeah. Well, you
And
did
then
it
maybe
again for me last spring, and
I know, and none of that's working out either.
no, 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 you you clearly don't remember. I don't remember all that you said. Oh, yeah, 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 about doing a business thing and everything, but that might come in the future. You just don't know when. But you
Maybe
said,
I'm that business person and we're doing it right now. It's just not what I
"Oh,
saw. I
oh,
actually saw something totally different for you. I saw like an assistant
yes,
in
you did."
your designing business.
Well, I do have an assistant now,
Okay.
but I thought you thought it was gonna be like a younger person and, we were gonna have a
Yeah, I saw her
space.
as a younger girl.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to eventually she'd be with you for a while and she's going to be awesome. And then I remember she was going to go to like the medical field or something.
Well, I do have someone that's awesome. I do have somebody that's helping me, but she's like my age and she's amazing. And I don't know, maybe she'll be a nurse at some point, but I don't know that part. But this is
Yeah,
the part that I remember is you said you're going to do some business in Chicago. And I was
I
thinking,
did.
"What? Are you smoking?" Like this is
I said Chicago. I don't even know
yes,
where Chicago is.
you did. Sorry, that's my son. Yeah, you you did. You said that. And anyways, ended up having a work basically like a continuing education event in Chicago in October of last year. But I
Wow,
had no idea that that was
I'm
even
pretty
gonna happen
good.
when you told me that.
I didn't even know it.
Yeah, I know. But
Ugh.
but I do not have that same ability. Things will just pop into my head.
I
Um,
told you the story that with Autumn, didn't I?
I think about about the boyfriends or something?
So, like, Autumn is an intuitive healer, and I had gone to her, and when I left, and she does readings, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd gone to her, and she's like, "Oh, like your the top of your like your chakra, the top chakra, the purple one or whatever, it was like wide open, but everything's stopping at your neck. Like this part of you is totally closed off. So like maybe you second guess everything you say, or you're thinking and you just don't say it. And but when I left there, I swear to God, like everything was brighter. It was like I entered this new world.
Oh,
And I was like,
interesting.
ooh, like I had a secret. And so I went that I was like, I'm going to think about somebody and just see what comes. And I had a brand new client coming the very next morning, and I'd never seen her before. I knew she was coming in for her nails for her wedding. So that I knew she was getting married, and I knew she was getting a full set. That's all I knew about her. So I was trying to think about this woman. Like, what is she going to be wearing? What's her story? And I had this thing that basically she was a widow. And right when I thought of widow, I was like, what the heck? Why am I thinking that? She's getting married, whatever.
Right.
And she comes in and I'm doing her feet. We did a hands and feet, and I'm doing her feet, and I go, "Oh, you plan on having kids?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Because I can actually picture you running after this little boy." And she's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, that's so nice to hear because my first husband and I, we actually had names picked out and everything, but he died." And I'm like, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." I go in the hall and I'm like, "Holy shit, she's a widow." I like freaked out. I have a secret. I'm like, "God, what am I gonna do with this thing?" And I was like, the rest of the day, I was like on almost like this weird like feeling of like, "Oh my God, that just happened."
It was validation.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
It was awesome though. And
Yeah.
then of course I called Autumn like, "Hey, I need you to come in and get a pedicure. I would really like to see you." And then I read for her too. And Brandy was there, and that whole situation was really weird and fun and cool.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just can't do it for a living, but
Well, I
it's
don't think you can do it for a living yet. You probably just need, more confidence because at this point you still think you're making it up and you're not trusting in it. And
uh, but I
once
think
you
everybody has the same thing that I think I do. You do it. Anybody can do it. We
I
just
do on occasion, but I can't control any of it.
Well,
So
see that book that you're reading, because I'm reading the same one. Have you gone through all the different steps?
no, because I keep falling asleep.
So, I try to do them, like, on my walk.
Yes,
I know you're supposed to be sitting upright and being straight, but I have to do it in a time where I know that I'm not going to fall asleep.
right.
So, what is the name of this book so people know what we're talking about?
Oh my gosh.
It sounds bad.
It does, it does. What gosh, I don't have it in front of me. It
It's
was
called The Psychic Witch.
Psychic Witch, yes. Psychic
It sounds
Witch.
bad. It is whatever, if you're into it, it just tells you different steps on how to trust your gut, how to be more, intuitive.
And it gives you exercises.
Yes.
And there's like what, 40 exercises in that book?
There's all different kind I'm like, "What? We're only on step 8." I just zoned out on the last 4. Like,
I know. I know.
yeah. And to trust, like, those flashes in the corner of your eye, like, trust those things are actual things, because the more you, acknowledge them, the more that it happens, if that's what you want in your life,
Right.
right? If you don't want that stuff, keep ignoring it. Honestly, if you're not into that stuff, you're probably not listening to this anyway,
Right.
but there must be some sort of curiosity in you if you are listening to this at this point.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Listening to us rattle on about all this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I had told you after I got the book that, I was doing it and I haven't gotten as far as I would like to because I keep getting so relaxed that then I fall asleep. This one time
I got the audiobook.
Oh!
I got the physical book, and then I bought the audiobook because I wanted to be able to listen to it while I'm walking. Because I'm like you, as soon as I open a book, I'm like asleep, and I'm not even tired, but I
Right,
just fall asleep when I read books. So I just do an audiobook and I just walk, and that way I get a longer walk because I want to hear more.
right, okay. Well, I normally
Yeah.
walk with my husband, so then I'm talking, I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
listen, but, you know and that's the other thing, you don't wanna do it in the car.
Do you guys
So
hold hands too?
You what?
Do you guys hold hands when you're walking too?
No. We're like we're moving, man.
Okay.
But we
I like take leisurely walks with my dog.
Oh, okay.
I get my
No.
workout when we pass another dog and I have to hold her off of them.
'Cause
'cause she
she's so
wants to
big.
kill him. No, she is not nice.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
she's
sorry.
not. That's okay. She was nice, and then her soulmate, our other dog, died, and
Mm.
ever since then, she doesn't like any other dogs. I even tried to adopt a dog just like her, well, no, a dog like, it was a girl though, and she's a girl, and I guess 2 girls don't like each other. She tried to kill this dog like 6 times.
Oh my
I
gosh.
had to find a safe home for it. It was bad. Anyway,
Oh, geez.
off the subject.
Hey, and you know what? You also wanted to explain to our listeners the difference between like what Suzanne does and what Renee does. And then in a couple weeks when we have Joshua John on, what kind of the differences are.
Okay.
And I don't know that
So,
I'm the best person to describe that, but do you want to start? I mean, I can tell you what I think I know, but
why don't you tell me what you think,
okay.
and maybe you were right spot on.
Okay.
So,
So I think that the difference is a couple things, but it sounds to me like when someone has the gifts and the abilities, they can actually expand and do more things. For example, Suzanne Jacques, she takes an item, she holds it, gets your name and your birth date. She doesn't need your full name, she just needs your first name and your birth date. She doesn't even need your year, although most of the time she does ask for it.
she wants to know how old you are, though.
Yes, she does. And she holds those things and she just sees these pictures of what you're like. Okay. So people say, well, she said I was going to be a caregiver. Well, she's seeing a picture that is her image. Like these spirits guides are showing, or somebody's showing her a picture of this image that she's just depicting is typically of a caregiver. So you have to take these things as sort of a broad brush, not like a specific item. So, obviously we had her on
It's like a
and
symbol.
yes, it's a symbol,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
And so she's
And
at
that's what I do. I look for signs. Like when I ask a question or somebody asks me a question, I look for these signs. And mine are more physical than I'm like, it's like when you watch a movie and the camera pauses for a moment on something that you know is going to be important later.
oh, foreshadowing.
Yes. So I kind of look like that when somebody asks me a question. I'm kind of focusing on that one thing that kind of stands out.
Okay.
So that's the sign I'm looking for in when people ask questions.
So Suzanne has really built her business and her specialty, her expertise in telling people about themselves and then also being able to see symbols when they talk about things they want to do. So if you say, "Hey, I want to be a school teacher or I want to be a nurse," she will see symbols whether that fits with your personality or not.
Exactly.
However, and she will typically tell you that she's not a medium which sees and communicates with dead people, but when her dad died, and she has told this, so I don't think I'm saying anything that I can't, but when her dad died, she actually started communicating with him a little and she's honed in those skills. So you and I have talked about this, but she was actually able to communicate with my loved ones that had passed on. And she was also actually able to tell me some things about my dad who was still living that he felt, and I know she's done that for many other people, kind of knowing what other people are feeling through you, you're the loved one and you kind of channel that. But Renee, being a trans medium, she not only does see the spirits on the other side, she can also channel their feelings and what happened to them in their life here on earth. So there, while it's similar, it's also different. And obviously Suzanne, I think, has that talent, but I don't think that she really promotes that because I don't know that for her it's as strong as she wishes maybe it was or thinks it should be. But Renee's is super strong when it comes to that part. And
I'll
then
agree. Yes. I
yeah,
think Renee really specializes in talking to people who have passed on, and where Suzanne really wants to focus on like what's coming for you. What's your future? Like, where are you headed?
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I
And so I
called
just wanted to really talk about the differences between the two because they are both amazing at what they do, but they're totally different. So depending on what you're looking for, which one of those two people would be the best fit for that?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that, we have seen in our life and then the lives of other people that have been impacted how, reassuring and comforting it is to have those experiences, and some people are just all tied up about maybe a death in the family or how they ended things with a loved one before they passed or how they passed, and I think that that gives them the ability when, just talking to somebody like Renee to let go of that and to say, "You know what? I did feel bad about that." Like, I had some pent up stuff about my dad's death, but I've been able to put it behind me because I know he's fine.
Yeah.
And you know this story because you were actually there, but we did a group reading with Joshua John, who I've mentioned now several times. But he's gonna come on
Mhm.
with us too. And he, immediately told my mom that he loved the remodel that she did on the house. I mean, Joshua John just spitted that out, like, first thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no one else
See,
in the
he's
room
also very talented,
very
and he's
talented. Like
very, like, precise, and the funny thing about him, and compared to these other 2 people, is he's young. So,
very.
a lot of his symbols are limited
Yes.
without having the whole, um, library that we have as adults or older adults. So like if there's a certain name that's an unusual name, like let's just say John Wayne, he's going to probably not know who that is exactly, but
Yes.
he'll find somebody in his own um, dictionary or whatever that fits that.
Well, and
So if he's trying to come up with the word Wayne,
wasn't that the story that didn't wasn't the John Wayne one of them? I know there was a band. So when we did this group, you've done a couple group, readings with him, I've done 2. But each
I've
time
organized at least 8 with him.
okay,
Yeah,
there
and I just take notes at all of them. So and then give you notes at the end.
but in his there was a band, and he was like, "They're telling me a band, I don't know this band," and he was getting these symbols, and somebody finally kind of I don't remember, guessed it, or he kinda put it together enough for us to figure it out, and he's like, "Oh, yeah,
Right.
I've never heard of them."
Right, because he's not old enough or
Yeah,
he hasn't had that experience to know. So his little library isn't as big as some of the older
right,
people who might get those things, those clues a little bit better. And for him, it's just trying to figure out how to communicate with those spirits that
right.
are trying to tell him the messages and stuff. But I did find that, I mean, he's amazing, and Renee was amazing, and Suzanne's amazing. I think it's just depending on your budget,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
exactly you're looking for, and so we'll help you through trying to figure out what the best fit for you would be. But we would, I mean, all 3 of those are people are great.
Well, and also I've gotten different messages from all 3 of them
Yes,
that have been amazing. Uh, m both times I didn't get the same thing. So if you think, "Oh, I've been once, I don't need to do this," which maybe you don't, not because like you said, you're so comfortable, your mom and your dad passed, and you don't really feel like you need to hear from them because you know they're okay, you know that you left
yeah.
things well, like, you don't have anything unsaid or undone.
I just don't
Um
even know what questions I would ask. Like when I went and saw Renee, immediately, and it was a week after my best friend at that time had passed away, and she had taken her own life. And so immediately, I walk in the room, and she's sitting there. She's like, "Oh my!" She's like, "I've had a headache, and now I know where it's coming from." And and basically, she had gone through it, and she basically said that Janie regretted it the minute she did it,
Mm.
and she also said, "Gosh, did she medicate with alcohol?" And I was just like, "I don't think so." I knew that she had in the past, but she was in the military and on a base. How on earth would she be medicating with alcohol, right?
Oh, I think they do a lot.
Yeah, so I didn't I just imagined they're in some bunk not doing, I didn't know. And and it turns out that it was 3 months later, I get a call from Janie's dad, and he's like, "Hey, does Michael, still, like, detail cars?" And I'm like, "Well, he never detailed cars, but he'd be happy to help. What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, we're getting Janie's car back, from the military," which was in Texas at that time, "and we wanna have it cleaned up." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure he would totally do that for you." For Janie, we would do that for them. She was like a sister to us, and um he's like, "Yeah, okay, but we're just having a hard time because they found a bunch of wine bottles in the car and they're doing an investigation."
Ugh.
Okay, this is what I was telling when we did the Renee, interview, is sometimes they tell you something that makes no sense,
Right.
and much later, so this is 3 months after that reading, do I find out, because she said I was sick to my stomach, which indicates alcohol,
Oh,
were JJ burps,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So, she knew that she was drinking a lot, and I was
But you
like,
didn't
"There's
know
no
it.
way," and then for all the bottles to be in the car, and they were having a hard time, like, trying to investigate everything that had happened, and, then eventually Michael did do the car, but that was just an example of when you go to these things, it may not make any sense right then,
Right.
but it might later.
Well, and so that kinda ties into that whole past life thing to go back to our original subject we were talking about today,
Yeah,
because a lot of these past life, videos that I watched on YouTube, because you can find them, lots of people are doing them and posting them up. Um, they oftentimes are doing them to solve medical issues here in this life. So there was one gal who, had these debilitating migraines, was always getting these headaches, and it was because in a past life, she had been either shot in the head or hit in the head, I can't really remember, but, she had had head trauma, and so once, even one of the gals that I was watching that is, a past life regression, therapist, she had had a client come in with feet problem, and as soon as she hypnotized her, found out that in a past life she'd had a foot injury, the injury was gone, like, the next day, which is so weird because, like, okay,
yeah,
once you acknowledge it, then it goes
yeah,
away, like, why did it go away if it was a past life injury? Like, just that whole thing just blows my mind.
right. Well, I think half of being sick is just knowing what it is to understand it.
Yeah,
But we can deal with that
but
part of it.
but why is that thing that happened in a past life coming over?
Well, and it's sort of the same thing when we're relearning the lessons. Like we didn't get it in the last one. Where you have those patterns. Like if
Okay,
you
so let me
did,
throw this one at you.
yeah.
I know this is sort of controversial for some people, but I'm gonna just throw it out there. What if when you have somebody who's, like, transsexual or transgender, I guess it would be, what if that's a past life?
Well, what if their past lives were always the other opposite sex,
Yes.
and they come in here and
Yes, and
it
it's just
doesn't
not
feel
right.
right.
It doesn't fit.
Just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Like, I've always wondered if there was something like that with past lives that you just didn't get cleared out all the way. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reset button and it just didn't happen all the way, you know? I have
Yeah,
to.
that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I think just because, of I have the people have very intense feelings about these
Yes.
sorts of things, and I
Very much
think
so.
it's a very hard subject because it could go we obviously don't have any of the answers, and to
No.
try to figure it out, I think everybody's individual. It could it be hormones? Could it be a lot of different things? Or could you just have been born in the wrong body?
Right. It's so
Was there
very
a mix
interesting. I
up
know.
somewhere and then that happened? Like, I'm not here to judge
No.
anybody. You can
No.
live your life however you want, but,
Absolutely.
um,
And I
I
support that. I mean, I support
yeah,
that. I think, first of all, those that say that they choose it, yeah, I don't believe that, you know
or that you can pray it away.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
no.
bull honky. But, my son, for example, we didn't know till quite late. He was a sophomore in high school, and we found out he's dyslexic, and so we didn't know anything about this, like, "What is dyslexia? What does it do?" And they just said, "It's just a miswiring from the left to the right side of the brain. So when you start to read, you read in the right side. By 3rd grade, when you're reading, it goes all to the left side, and you don't look at a word and have to sound out every single word anymore. You just know it by seeing it." And so you don't read the way a first grader reads, right?
Yeah,
Well, a dyslexic, that wiring doesn't cross over like that. So they still may have some degree of having to work at it, especially like phonics and there's all sorts of dyslexia, dysgraphia, all that kind of stuff, but it basically is a miswiring. So if these miswirings work for something like that, why couldn't they work for something else? Like memory
yeah,
or spiritual awareness or the ability to connect to another realm or I mean for me it just opens up so many possibilities that we don't even know, and when someone that I know just is like, no, that cannot be, past lives are not possible, blah blah blah, I don't believe in them, I'm like, really? Like, You think
Well, I think when they have very strong feelings about those are the people you don't engage with in this conversation.
yeah,
I've
no,
had,
for sure.
a friend come to one of JJ's readings, when that I coordinated, and, the husband later, I ran into him at one of the markets, and he's like, "We would have called people like you when I was a kid, like a witch and like all this stuff." And I was like, by showing people that life doesn't end here, that it goes on, and
Yeah,
giving people peace about what, something that they're struggling with, that would be considered like witchcraft. Like, I'm super confused about this. How is that possible? If
yeah.
I'm, and how could this be the devil's work when I'm actually bringing people, closure and
Closer, yeah.
peace in their lives? And I mean, you would think that that would make the devil mad, because I'm actually bringing joy to these people versus the
Well, and
opposite.
don't you
I
believe
know.
that's what religion's really meant to do, is bring people peace and comfort?
I think it keeps people um, confined in their boxes.
Well, it can,
I
right?
I believe in a lot of different
Yeah.
religions, and I don't believe that there's one. So I believe that like ice cream, there's all these different flavors, but in the end, it's all ice cream.
Yes, I agree,
In
but
the
don't
end, it's
but
all one
you've
place. We're all going to the same place, and depending, you can get there by eating strawberry, and I'll eat chocolate, but we're
Yep,
all eating ice cream together.
right, I agree, but you've chosen a flavor, and you've chosen a flavor because it brings you comfort, or it does something else, like, it's the sense of community, or it's the people there, or it's the proximity to your house, or it's the pastor. I had a church that I went to all the time, and we just liked the pastor.
Yeah,
And I think that it's that thing. You just picked a
it's that
flavor.
connection.
You don't
Yeah.
believe that that's the only flavor you're gonna find comfort in, but you pick that flavor because it brings you peace
Well, and this is how
for
I
now.
get myself in trouble when the people knock on the doors, the different religion people,
Yeah.
and I get stuck in these conversations, and then they come back over and over and over again. And it's not that I want to engage with them. It's just I'm curious of what you have to say, but I'm not going to join your church. Like, I'm not going to do that.
So you
But
actually engage.
I talk to them all the time, and I just, this one group, I was like, I feel like I'm wasting your time. I'm not coming to your church, and but I do like hearing what you have to say, because I believe in all of it. You
Right.
know, it's a hard one, because I do like to hear about everybody. Everybody has their own voice,
Right.
and I just, sometimes I'm curious. I'm not saying that I'm the right way, you're wrong way, but I want to know what you believe.
What your way is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a very, politically charged or spiritually charged, conversation. Yep.
I just believe in all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
don't
you
know.
take your kids to church.
We used to go to church all the time, and then, in fact, Michael and I used to teach Sunday school because Tristan wouldn't stay in it. So we ended up just teaching his class for like 3 years. And then the church had a little bit of a changeover, and then we found one closer to home that the kids really enjoyed going to, because they had such a great youth program.
Uh-huh.
But when I was in that actual, you know, congregation, I was falling asleep most of the time.
Yeah.
It just was not. It wasn't my ice cream.
Yep.
But the kids really loved theirs, so I would go for them,
Yeah.
and I wanted them to have it. And now they're a little older, they chose not to, and that's okay, because eventually they'll figure out their own flavors.
Right, right, and
Yeah.
we have had that same experience. We liked one part of this one and that part of that one, and
Yeah. Well, and I think things have a time too.
right,
You go to a certain teacher for so long, and then eventually you just keep getting the same information.
right,
So then it's time to find another teacher.
right.
And Michael's mom used to pay us to go to church, and
What?
then we would get $20 each to go to Sunday night service, and then
What?
we would take that $20 and go to Sizzler. That's
Wow.
how we paid for our Sunday night dinner every Sunday. But
Huh, alright.
so I want my kids to choose that for themselves, and not I don't want to pay them to do it either.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
had to save
gosh.
myself, what would that be? Um $80 a week?
Yeah, exactly. Holy moly. Well, cost of,
I couldn't even do the math.
inflation, you gotta bring that up from 20 bucks to 25 at least.
I actually just got off the phone with Suzanne right before we got on our call because I had a question about work.
Oh.
And so she gave me some suggestions. And then she really had high hopes for us here on this thing,
Oh, good.
which also includes her too. So
Oh, good. Well, I love it.
that would be good for all of us.
If you'd like to be on our show and ask Suzanne a question or two about your career, your love life, or family, please contact us on our website at www.salonsleuth.com. We take calls the first Monday of the month. For a full appointment with Suzanne, go to her website. Thank you.